Christ and Peter, Christ and Paul, Castor and Pollux, Part 1. Parallel naming, or paronymy, is a method of creating puns in religious mythology, folklore, and in storytelling. This method of concealing puns in the names of mythic characters was used from the earliest times, in the earliest written myth, and is still used today. The name Peter, for instance, serves as a pun on Petrus, the rock, but is also a pun on pater, the Latin word for father, not to mention patrus, the god of the fathers. And Petrus is styled as the first pope, first father, or papa of the Bible's mythic Christian church. Petrus, as Simon Peter, is the foundation of the church, the rock upon which the church was traditionally built. Indeed, there is a Roman legend of St. Peter's burial beneath the Vatican. Peter is also a pun on Paedia, the child, or the young one, just as Zeus Jupiter was the youngest of the high Titan gods, but became the father of gods and men by taking the place of his own father, Cronus, in Greek myth. This father and son motif is the basis for Christianity, which is expressed as the Petrine and Pauline Christian traditions, as a pun on Jupiter and Apollo, father and son gods of the Greco-Roman tradition. Peter becomes the apostle to the Jews, their Judaism being the father religion or foundation of Pauline Christianity. Paul is a pun on Aplu, the son, as in Aplu Enlil, or son of Enlil, that ancient deity of the Mesopotamians, also known as the father of Yahweh in Hebrew tradition. But Paul is also a multi-level pun, or polypun, based on the polis, pole, or center, the palace, stake, or polis, the pole again, and the polis, the city, the assembly, or center for people, the populace, perhaps even of a metropolis, like Rome or Tarsus. Further, that the Son also is the Father is a much disputed mystery within Christian and other religious traditions. Castor and Pollux, twin sons of Zeus, are presented in the Bible as James and John, the sons of Zebedee, as identified by scholar Dennis R. MacDonald in his book, The Homeric Epics and the Gospel of Mark, though he was not the first researcher to realize Zebedee was Zeus Jupiter, and that James and John symbolized Castor and Pollux. What MacDonald failed to realize in his excellent work was that the twin sons, Castor the mortal and Pollux the immortal son, symbolized the two halves of the two-season year, and the famous hero twins, Castor and Pollux, also symbolized the two serpents of what would later become the caduceus of Hermes in Greek myth. In the beginning. What later became the caduceus of Hermes is symbolized by Gizita and Tammuz, and by Gizita and Pedu, guardians of the gate of the underworld in Mesopotamian myth. This pair of gods also symbolized the Tigris, and Euphrates, Akkadian Paratu, rivers. So Tigris and Paratu ultimately became the paronyms Christ and Petrus. Castor and Pollux were also rightly known as the Castors, hero gods serving as dual precursors to Christ the Preserver or Savior. We need only be able to identify Tigris as Christos and Euphrates as Eupater, Jupiter. That's how you use the paronymy, the parallel names. And we are back looking at names Gizita and Pedu. Ningisita, Lord Gizita, or Kisita, as his name was also transliterated, became the god of Ningirsu, a version of Ninurta from the city of Girsu. Such deities also equate to Mars or Apollo in classical myth. We can see Apollo switch sides in the Iliad, leaving Troy to its doom by Zeus's command, much as we see Paul switch sides in the New Testament, changing from Christian persecutor to the self-proclaimed apostle of the Christians.